to connect with every creative writer in the world. And I need your help. The world is constantly changing, which is why it's our duty. No, it's our responsibility to inspire creativity. My creative writing tips, tricks, and strategies are gonna help you become a better writer. So that way you can beat procrastination. Join me on this journey to unite the creative writing industry. And let's inspire creativity in the world together. What does creative writing mean to you? Welcome to Kauffman Writes, the first daily writing live stream for motivation, community, and maybe a little bit of procrastination. I'm your host, Kauffman, and you found yourself in Story Structure Tuesdays. Welcome. Today, I have an exciting stream for you. We're going to be talking about how do you write the end of your story? That critical moment in the story, the climax, when things get absolutely horrible for your hero. How do you write the ending, but how do you make it compelling? So we're going to hop into that. We'll talk about story endings, and then we'll hop into our community favorite, Hermes the Cat. We'll continue workshopping a live story on the stream to give you a better idea of how can you structure your own stories. And then after that, if you stick around till the end, we're going to do our daily writing sprint. Whether you're feeling kind of creative and you're like, you know what, I just need to vibe with some more other writers, or you're like, hey, Kauffman just wrote the coolest part of the last Scarecrow story yesterday, because today I got some big stakes for you. Big things are going to happen in Last Scarecrow. So stay tuned for the end. All right. And before we hop into it, if you're watching on the replay, I actually got you covered. Once the stream ends, time codes will be added. So you can actually hop to the part of the stream that brings you the most value. All right, beautiful. And let's hop right into it. Structuring the end of the beginning. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So when we think about how do we structure the end of a story, let's see, let me make sure. I think this is the view I want. Perfect. All right, wonderful. Here we go. So how do you structure the end of a story? And specifically, what is the end of a story? So when I think about story endings, there we go. So when I think about story endings and I think about what is considered the ending, first off, I consider the ending the last third of the script. So usually if you're using a beat sheet or if you're using something like a save the cat method, I always like to consider it the act 3 portion. I like to consider it's way past the midpoint. The stakes have already gotten worse for your hero. And it's at that point where usually the hero has to go defeat the bad guy. They have to go storm the castle, so to speak. They have to go tackle the fortress. Some popular, let me think of some of the most popular recent movie examples. Dune. I know Dune was a very popular movie. For Dune Part 2, that was when they went to go storm. The Act 3 started when they went to go storm the kingdom with the royal family. Right once they started with the Sand People, it started at the very moment that the main characters and all the sand tribe basically hopped on the worm and then rode the worm to go win the war. So that's when the Act 3 started. It's usually a very clear moment when the stakes are going to be very real and our hero has to go defeat the bad guy. So it's usually, I like to consider it Act 3. You can consider it when the hero has to make the final push to go defeat the bad guy or the army, or whatever the evil antagonist is putting out, or the army. We'll put antagonist. In popular movies, let me pull up the comments. Hey, what's up, Eli? Welcome to the stream, my friend. I guess you could say a couple things. There's the climax, but that's not like the very end, right? That's a great question. So with the climax itself, I like to consider the climax as a portion of the ending. Let's see. I think I want to use this view. Perfect. So I like to think of the climax as a portion of the ending, right? So if I was to really break down what I consider the ending of a story, I like to consider it the transition into Act 3. I like to consider it the sometimes in the beat sheet process. This is called the Dark Night of the Soul. Dark Night of the Soul. This is basically when during the climax, when things get, it's like the worst moment, the darkest, the night is always darkest just before the dawn. One of my favorite quotes. Dark Night of the Soul, when things are the worst for the hero. It's the entire climax, right? When they're going to fight the bad guy and win the battle. This is that moment, the climax for the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, when Frodo and Sam are climbing up the hill of Mount Doom to go throw the ring in, and we got the battles in the background. For Star Wars, that's when Luke Skywalker is facing off against his father, Darth Vader. When the Rebel Alliance is making that final push with the Ewoks to take the laser down. It's usually very commonly when they're going to go fight the bad guys. And then it also includes, after the climax, is the resolution, which is specifically what you're speaking to, Eli. So the resolution is the very, very end of the story. Now, I like to break story into 3 sections: beginning, middle, and an end, just to make it easy for you. Of course, there's different beats and there's different moments throughout each of the sections, but to make the ending easy, I like to consider it the climax, really like the pre-climax, the climax, and then the resolution. Because if we do not resolve our story, none of it matters, right? If the hero didn't learn anything from the journey, none of it matters. Great question. Let's see. The hero must sublimate the lessons they've learned to overcome the challenge. And that is absolutely how they beat the bad guy, right? So we have to think about, where did the hero start in the very beginning of the story? Because they started from an old world. So where basically all of their problems were leading to wherever their original state was. They went on a journey throughout Act 2, whatever the new world was. They learned from both the new stuff they learned in the journey and their original core, who they used to be. They put that together, and then that's usually how they end up defeating the antagonist of the story. Absolutely. The end is what happens as a result of the climax I felt. That is a really great point. Absolutely. I I like to think that that final moment, that final ending of a story, is a result of an overall character's journey, right? If we felt emotional stakes and if we felt a roller coaster all the way from the beginning of the story up until the point where the hero has to defeat the bad guy and we get that climactic ending battle, then the resolution, the true ending, is where we find that relief. That's where we find like that moment when even let's think of something like a Marvel, right? The Infinity War saga, right? Both part 1 is when all the heroes come together, they got the Infinity Gauntlet and they think they're going to, or they got all the gemstones and they think they're going to defeat Thanos, and nope, Thanos snaps them all away. That's the resolution moment. At the end of Infinity War, when, of course, Marvel's favorite thing to do, throw in 1,000 superheroes, and everybody loves that moment, right? When you get every single superhero from the first 3 phases of the Marvel Infinity Saga. I imagine for the continued Marvel saga, I think the King Dynasty and the Secret Wars will probably be around the climax type part of this portion of the Marvel franchise. And let's see. Hey, what's up? Welcome to the stream, Marta. Yeah, as you can see from my new time, I'm streaming at early times. That's funny why you asked. I literally told you to. Yeah, so for those of you, this is a good side note, real quick. For those of you who are used to me streaming later in the day, I've actually adjusted my times for the week because based on analytics and feedback, I've learned that I don't actually keep I might not actually be streaming at the best times that is most convenient for you, the audience, the viewer. So I'm trying playing around with some different times this week. Absolutely some earlier times than what I usually do. Always give me feedback if you like or dislike the hours. All right. So I think this is a good job of how we've broken up our act, the ending specifically. Now, Eli, you were right. Like a lot of people might just consider the ending like that last end moment, right? That final resolution moment. For all intents and purposes, I'm considering the ending to be the entire act three, just to make it easier for you, right? The beginning, act one, when the hero starts. The middle is all the fun and game stuff when the hero gets to learn, journey through the new world, learn the things. They get punched in the face with the midpoint. Things get worse. And then we get to act three with the ending of our story. So I think this is a good way of how I've broken it down. We got Act 3, the hero has to go make the push, the transition into Act 3, the Dark Night of the Soul, the climax, and the resolution. So this gives an overall good push. If you're ever stuck with this part of the story, so let's say that you really struggle with endings and you're like, okay, so how do I come up with an ending that works for me? Right? What I would say is you want to think about where does your hero start and what is the most extreme moment that the hero can face at the very end of your story. Or let's say you're struggling with like, okay, how do I do the transition into the ending? You want to think about if your hero is going to go fight the antagonist, whatever the antagonist is, whether that's a person, place, or thing, or an idea. The transition to Act 3 is basically the heroes amassing their forces, or the bad guy is defeating all the forces and basically leaving the hero by themselves. And the hero is basically going to go confront or be forced to confront the antagonist in some way, shape, or form. The Dark Night of the Soul is a very strong moment because the hero has to absolutely be pushed to their lowest point. If a hero does not have a rock bottom, how can they truly be challenged? How can they truly soar and expect to go above and beyond in their battle against the antagonist? Let's see. And then Eli. So I feel when I'm coming up with a story, I usually stop at the climax. I just think that it's easy to forget about the resolution for me personally as well. But like I'm actually glad you brought that up because the climax, such cool things happen. That's like we always like to think of like, oh, that like super big battle, like that big moment, all the things happen, the story's resolved, but the story's not resolved, right? Until we actually hit the resolution. And especially if you're working on a novel or a short story, especially a novel or a series, the resolution is so important. If you're ever working on a series, your readership is going to want to see how it resolves because they're also going to be thinking in the back of their mind is they'll see there's like, all right, there's only 20 pages left, there's 30 pages left, and the reader, and then they'll be thinking, okay, well, are they going to leave me on a cliffhanger? How do the heroes resolve? And I always think it's important to give a satisfying resolution, but you still want to subvert expectations, right? If you've solved every single story problem by the climax, what's the point for your reader to keep on reading, right? If every question has been answered, once the hero defeats the antagonist, then the reader's like, okay, all right, the ending was all right. The battle was cool, but like the ending was just all right. I think a really great example of this is the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. When we think of the Return of the King, not the movie franchise, the specific book trilogy, the technically the climax is Frodo goes up to Mount Doom and destroys the ring with Sam. But what was left out of the movie series was a very notable chapter and series of chapters called the Scouring of the Shire, where basically the heroes return home. The entire Shire with all the hobbits has been taken over by Grima Wormtongue and a sorcerer or a minor character mentioned earlier on. And basically, that in itself is the resolution of the entire trilogy. They basically return home and they have to fight another battle, even though they literally just put all their lives into destroying the One Ring. I think that is an excellent example of how to do a resolution in a way that the audience is not expecting. The entire trilogy, the Fellowship is going to destroy the One Ring. It's destroyed, so the story should be over, right? Nope, just kidding. There's still bad guys around. Great. That's one of my favorite examples of how to do a resolution in a way that's engaging. Hey, what's up, Mary? Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. Hey there. I read mysteries also, so it's a bit different. So that's actually a great point. So with mysteries and thriller and suspense, the resolution is going to be a little different. But I'm going to challenge you there because you're still going to have a resolution. So usually with mysteries, the whole point of it is like, who's the killer? Who's the killer? Or how are you going to solve the mystery, right? And the climax is how the mystery is solved. Now, if you're doing a standalone thriller or a standalone mystery or suspense novel, as the resolution, you want to think about what questions can I still leave the reader, or what questions can I answer to the readership at the end once the mystery has been solved. Now, a great way of doing this is usually leaving certain questions that are focused on character development, because usually the plot, a lot of times we've resolved the plot. In a lot of action movies, or a lot of suspense movies, the way they like to do this is, okay, the bad guy's defeated, and then literally the bad guy comes back to life. They like to do that as a resolution thing a lot of the time, kind of like as a false warning. I think sometimes that can work as a resolution. Other times it could be, oh, the character has defeated the bad guy, but there's still a problem that they haven't defeated within themselves, right? So leaving a moment for the character to overcome in the resolution of your story can be very impactful as well. So that way your audience or your readership doesn't like read the climax and like, all right, book's over, I'm done. Let's see. My newer work is more light fantasy, though. Yep. I've always been a huge fantasy fan, sci-fi, do mystery thrillers as well. Absolutely. But you're exactly right. If the hero doesn't return to their old life and use what they learned to fix what was somehow wrong, what was wrong somehow, it's like you say, what was the point? Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? So it's like if you've answered all the questions by the climax, why is the reader going to read the last 20 pages? Now, a lot of people will read it just because like they need to finish a story, but some people will just tune out. Once you've answered the questions, like why stick around? Right? Remember, our readers, people have short attention spans in this day and age. People are like, you got to like keep their attention. Once you've engaged them in the story, they're going to want to know the answers. But if you've answered everything, the question you ask yourself is, why should they keep reading once the climax ends? Which is why the resolution is important. Much easier to accomplish if you're writing a series and you have a very clear, like, you're going to do a cliffhanger, you're going to do an epilogue. A little easier, but still good things to think about. You're actually right, Eli. So when I was talking about the scouring of the Shire, scourging, it's the scouring of the Shire. So the hobbits learned, right, from the journey that they were closer. Even though they were small creatures, they had the greatest impact on the world. They learned the core journey, but then going home, they saw that even though they had gone all around the world to go defeat this bad guy, that their home was still left vulnerable and corrupt, and they had to learn that protecting their home was just as important as protecting the world and those that they cared and loved. Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love thrillers. I love thrillers and mysteries. I end up watching a lot more TV shows with thrillers and mysteries, but I absolutely love checking out stories as well. 100%. That's another really good point, right? So if you think about your protagonist, can you create a conflict? Can you create a minor conflict, right? So it doesn't need to be part of the main story, but can you create a minor conflict that your protagonist alone has to solve? That would be an excellent strategy. Now, whether the conflict actually involves fighting, maybe it's a psychological thing, maybe it's an ideological thing. Romance loves to use this as a relationship, as a tying up on a relationship thread. There's so many different ways to go about it, but it's just the question you want to ask yourself is what how does the story look like? How does your story look like when it's resolved 100%? Now, between the climax resolving 90% of the questions and the resolution resolving the last 10%, how can I make that last 10% as engaging? How can I subvert expectations? How can I do something that has not been done before? 100%. Favorite actor is Cage. The Cage. Nicolas Cage. I've absolutely loved so many of his thrillers. I think I saw a recent movie of his. I've just been kind of mixed on more of his recent stuff, but absolutely, Nicolas Cage literally does thriller after thriller after thriller. Some of them are great, some of them suck, but I appreciate his acting style. Absolutely. Okay. So with that in mind, let's hop into, as we've done a good touch on structuring the end of the beginning, let's hop into our community favorite, Hermes the Cat. Woo! Who doesn't love our belovable feline trapped in purgatory and trying to escape the vicissitudes of this infernal 9-level damnation? Is he going to survive? So, for those of you who have missed parts of the Hermes story, what I've done is I will just copy this. We're going to hop into Hermes, and this just gives you a brief overview of where we're at with Hermes the Cat right now. Let me just do a little heading so that way you can get caught up. Hermes the Cat. Perfecto. So Hermes the Cat, let's end that story. Woo! All right. I was like, Jared's going overboard. So let's do that. We got Hermes the Cat. And by the way, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. Tap that follow button, tap that subscribe button, and let me know that you're getting value out of the stream. I'm a crazy streamer. I'm a crazy writer streamer. I stream every single day. Today, specifically, I have been streaming now consecutively for 149 days. Yeah, 149 days of consecutive streaming, Monday through Friday. Kauffman Writes is our casual writers group. This Friday will actually be story time. I'll do another live reading of the next chapter of Fourth Wing. Super fun. I'll try to bring some popcorn for you this time, Marta. And then Saturday is a story critique show, and Sunday is the Creative Right Now podcast. So if you're subscribed, you'll be alerted when I go live. All right, and let's get into our feline Hermes the Cat. All right, and let's see what we got here. Face Off was a funny Travolta and Cage movie, to be sure. Miss Tardy to the Party. Just read Still Life by Louise Penny. You know, I've never read that. I'm not familiar with that author, but for any of you who are interested in thrillers or mysteries, it sounds like that's a great recommendation. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Katori? Welcome, Marta's friend. Welcome to the stream. You can join Marta in telling us all about the Polish coffee shops and the Polish, some of the Polish things to help really develop our stories. Marta is a pro at that. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here. Right now, we're actually just about to hop into, we're talking about ending a story. How do you write the end for a story? And we've been working on our story for the past couple weeks, Hermes the Cat. So the core story, Hermes the Cat wakes up in purgatory amidst a bunch of alligators. The middle, Hermes does a selfless act. The end, he sacrifices himself to save a new friend. But we determined last time our actual resolution, we created a resolution last time, which I'm very proud of. So we've gone through probably about 6 or 7 workshops now of this story, Hermes the Cat. Make sure that if you want to catch up on any of the Hermes the Cat stuff, check out after the stream, check out the playlist below. There's a link in the YouTube playlist description with more of like the workshop stories. We've done character development, world building, and all that jazz. So we actually came up with a resolution. So we actually have a resolution. So we're going to ask ourselves, how can we make the ending of this story as impactful as possible? So the resolution, Hermes wakes up near, we'll just say he wakes up back to life nearby his mouse friend, who also wakes up. And we are leaving the story on an ambiguous ending. Ambiguous. Can Kauffman spell ambiguous? Ambiguous. Yep, ambiguous ending, which is absolutely a fun way to end off a story. We're going to challenge, was any of the purgatory real? Or was it all in his head? But he's going to find a coin in the very end that might suggest otherwise. That will be the last closing moment. And as we've determined, coins are used as a currency throughout the world. So throughout the purgatory for passing through the levels. So the fact that he finds a coin in the real world after he's been brought back to life for a 10th life is going to make us challenge like, oh, maybe it did actually happen. So that will be fun. Let's see. Katori is my friend from Vietnam. That's awesome. Really sweet. Welcome from Vietnam, Katori. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. And all right, so let's see. So we got, let's see, we don't need the story or the selfish joke right now. So as we're focusing on the ending and we're thinking about, okay, so for the Act 3 of Hermes the Cat, essentially Hermes is going to be traveling through, let's see, Hermes will travel through the final 3 levels of purgatory. So much fun, am I right? So these will be levels 1 through level 1 through 3. Now, the fun thing we get to ask ourselves is, what are these levels going to look like? Now, if we go look up at our original plot and outline, let's see if we came up for levels 3.5. We talked about the middle. I'm just checking back to see if we had come up with an outline for it or not. Let's see. Actually, it might, no, it would have been story structure. Let's see. Hermes must complete a selfless act to escape hell. You know what we did? We actually touched on it in world building, now that I think about it. I was like asking myself if we had come up with a strategy for world building for the last 3. Let me think. I'm going to go pull up world building real fast. Maybe we can find it. Possibly. They're like, all right, Kauffman's so well organized. Okay, so let me pull up my world building. Awesome. So we know from what we had determined from our outline. Perfect. So we know from what we've determined that level 3, he's going to have to solve a series of puzzles, and level 1 is going to take place in his birthplace, which means that level 2 is going to be the actual climax of the story. So the cave means that things are going to get worse. He's basically going to have to solve the puzzles, knowing that he has to go. He's getting close to the end. Maybe something's going to have to have been taken away from him. The stakes are going to have to be at their lowest in these puzzles. Maybe, let's keep it funny, level 3, he has to solve the puzzles without his beloved catnip. The catnip has been stolen from him. He's going through catnip withdrawals. Catnip withdrawals. That would be funny. Now we'll have the comedic thing because that's always a fun thing to do. But what else can we do as we're thinking about the climax? So feel free to throw in some ideas down in the comments. How do you think are some ways that we could really make this ending of Hermes the Cat story as impactful as possible. Whether that's on his way to the antagonist or whether the antagonist itself. Now, as we've talked about who the antagonist is, we've generally gone through a couple ideas. I think we're set that the alligators are aliens. So the antagonist is going to be some type of alien, which makes me think that he will be facing off. Hermes will face off against the devil. What we believe the devil. He will face off against the devil, who is actually disguised as an alien. Oh my goodness, big reveal. We think we're fighting against demons. No, he's fighting against an alien. Yo, sci-fi, what's up? Right? So who would have guessed that? It will be fun because we'll be able to throw in references throughout the story of we'll get to throw in sci-fi references throughout that there's alien activity, but then we'll have that big moment, the big reveal when Hermes faces off against the devil, and only to learn that the devil is actually an alien. Maybe we'll give the alien a laser, right? We'll make the alien as fun as catting possible. All right, that didn't work. I'll just keep my catitude to myself. Okay, so as we think about this, so the puzzles are essentially going to be his lead up to the face off with the devil, which means that he has to know that, let's see. So Hermes needs to know that by solving the puzzles, he will be facing the devil himself, which means that the devil has to take something from Hermes, probably take the catnip. Actually, perfect idea. The devil will take, devil will steal both the catnip, Hermes' favorite, and maybe one of Hermes' allies, or one of Hermes' allies can turn against him at the end of Act 2. Devil will steal both the catnip and something else dear to Hermes, right? So that's what we'll have. That will happen prior to Act 3. We'll have this here. So we'll do this. We'll technically put this at level 3.5. We actually created a secret level because Hermes is going to fail. So we're actually going to definitely have a secret level because Hermes is going to fail at the end of Act 2. And he's going to have to repeat a level over again. So the secret level, the devil will steal both the catnip and something else dear to Hermes, which is going to motivate Hermes, right? Motivate our cat to go through the cave, right? And go through these series of puzzles. The puzzles can be anything we want, right? Maybe it's something as easy as solving a Rubik's Cube. Maybe it's something as difficult as finding a hairball in piles and mounds of sand, right? We get to have as fun as we want, but the stakes have to be challenging, right? So if we're having him solve the puzzles, the question that I like to ask myself with any scene is what can make each of these moments as worse as possible? If Hermes is solving a puzzle, what can make these scenes, moments as worse as possible? Question mark. We could be having alligators attacking him. We could have these puzzles be timed. We could have these puzzles focus on his weaknesses, right? So then essentially, if let's say his weakness is he sucks at talking to people, then I would say, how do I make his weakness? How do I make it a reflection of the weakness that he's going to have to be faced against, right? So if he sucks at talking to people, then one of the puzzles, I would put him in the middle of a room where the only way to solve the puzzle is maybe we make make it like a murder mystery. That could actually be super fun. I know a couple of you are murder mystery fans in here. Maybe we could do like a type of like thriller suspense, and he literally has to talk to people to be successful. Hey, what's up, Zerby? Welcome to the stream, my friend. We're literally just brainstorming how to do endings, and right now we're working on our story called Hermes the Cat. We're brainstorming how does he get through the ending of our story? How is he going to get out of purgatory? And we're kind of brainstorming some ideas for the last 3 levels here. Feel free to join in on the conversation. Let's see, are you streaming else here or just here? That's a great question. If you're coming to the stream, I welcome you. I am actually streaming from 5 locations. I stream from Facebook, YouTube, the Kauffman's Corner channel is where I'm predominantly located. And then I also find myself in Twitch, LinkedIn, and X, all 5 places. So welcome if you're coming from any of those places. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so then when I think about the climax, and I ask myself, what could the coolest climax moment be between Hermes and the devil? What would this look like? Let's see, what would this climax moment look like? Let's see. We could brainstorm, do a couple of different ideas. What does a scene look like between Hermes the cat, who's our lovable little asshole, who's the lone wolf, who's so far that the story has been very selfish, and maybe he's learning. Maybe he's learned by this point that the only way to win is to no longer be selfish. So he fights this battle against the devil. It could be a sword fight, a gunfight, could be a coin fight, right? We could do any series of things. We could make it as video game like as we want. Video game like. We could have so much fun with it. That is a fun one. That's a great idea, Zerby. He could find out the devil takes on the form of him to show his darkest negative traits to make him change. I love that. One of my favorite examples, or an example I love of that is an older movie, A Scott Pilgrim Saves the World. It's used as a resolution moment, actually, when Scott Pilgrim goes and fights the bad guy, saves his friends, and then the real enemy shows up, basically himself. Right? Because at heart, that is the real battle, right? So that would actually be really, really fun. So what if the way this transition goes is, let's see, he fights against antagonist who looks like the devil. The devil transforms into an alien. And then lastly, because I like to use the rule of 3s, 1, 2, 3. And then thirdly, the alien transforms into himself, forcing him to confront his worst demon, his worst traits out of his all 9 lives that he's lived prior to purgatory. Now he literally has to face the worst of him, right? Or we could do something fun, actually. This gives me an idea. Instead of him facing off against all these things, because Hermes has had 9 lives, so what if in this final fight, instead of him facing off against the devil or the alien, what if the fight is literally him fighting? Hermes has to fight against all 9 versions of his previous lives, right? So like, what if that's the climax, right? We're expecting that he's going to fight a devil, but he gets to the end and he faces himself, and then literally he has to overcome each life of his worst weakness, because each life represents one of his a darker moment. Then he's specifically going to be challenged with each of his 9 lives. I could see that being super fun, right? We could do things like, it could be like a physical confrontation. With some of them, physical confrontation. We could do an intellectual because we know Hermes is more of an intellectual character. Intellectual, maybe something like chess. Intellectual, like chess or something involving strategy. Let's see. We could confront his facing off his worst demons. He could be doing something emotional, right? So we would want to do a physical, and this is what I love to do with character challenges: a physical obstacle, an intellectual obstacle, and an emotional obstacle. So an emotional would be maybe his favorite life. Emotional would be against his favorite life lived. Maybe that was the life where he felt he was on top. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Zerby, that's actually a really good point. So what's actually going to happen? So I'm actually glad you brought that up. So the climax is level 2, regardless of how we're doing it. I actually think that I think him facing off against all 9 of his lives is actually going to be the most engaging. So the climax is him going to be facing off against himself, and then our resolution is him actually going to be fighting the climax, and then level 1 is he goes to his birthplace where he actually faces his birth mother, the crazy cat lady. And that's going to be the resolution, the part of the story we're not expecting, right? Especially like we'll think like level 1's like the worst. It's really going to be level 2. Level 1's going to be the real emotional confrontation. So we could almost argue that the level 1 will be kind of an extension of the climax, but it's going to be a mix of the climax and the resolution, because he's going to overcome himself in level 2, but then in level 1 he'll accept himself, but to pass level 1 he will choose to sacrifice himself to save his friend, the flying mouse. Woo, his friend. His friend, the flying mouse. Who doesn't love that? We get to deal with the crazy cat lady. Who doesn't want to end off the purgatory story with the crazy cat lady? And then we get the resolution. Resolution wakes up in the real world. With the question, we'll leave the audience: was it real or was it all just a dream? And we leave the audience with that simple question: real or a dream? We give them the ambiguous, we let them make the decision. Ooh, that's an interesting one as well. I think you're that makes me think of like a Naruto with the different tails. I forgot what that's called, but you're right. That would actually be a really fun one as well, right? If like the devil is formed with like this with all these tails. It's called a Kitsune? Kitsune, I think. I'm like trying to remember what the name of it is. But each tale basically like then transforms into one of his lives. That'd be interesting. We could actually have the devil being a character who kind of is passive, but then creates each of the lives that he has to face off against. That's another really fun idea. Let's see. I have wrote a book that is so cute. Yeah, that's awesome. You've written a full book. Zerby, you should be so proud of yourself, by the way. If if you're ever wanting like feedback on any story writings or story excerpts, I do story critiques every Saturday right here on the stream on the Critique Show. Definitely feel free to shoot me an email if you want any of your story excerpts read at all. That'd be super cool. A house of mirrors. House of Mirrors would actually be really fun. That would be a lot of fun. Mary, I feel like the House of Mirrors is probably going to be, I feel like that will probably be a really good thing for somewhere in the middle of the story. I feel like that will be a good. Let's see. So, what fun things do we want? The hunt, a series of impossible tasks. I think the how I mean, or we could have fun with it. We could make the House of Mirrors more like lighthearted. Maybe we do it at the beginning and we do the House of Mirrors in like uh, level 3. Yeah, I would say. Okay, I'm gonna write that down on the end. All right. So I would say maybe we do House of Mirrors in level, what's that? 987. It's like level 8 or 7. I think that would be a really fun, easy one for us to be able to touch upon. Absolutely. I published it. Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I hope you find success with your published stories journey. The fact that you wrote a book and that you've gotten it out there is such success. Really, congratulations, my friend. Absolutely. That is so cool. All right. So what we've done, yeah, and Zerby, if you published a story, I also do podcasts with published authors on Sundays. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat more about it. I love chatting with published authors, especially on the podcast. All right. So I feel like we've made some good progress on how we end a story. I really wanted to give you an idea of when you're writing the ending of your story, what are ways that you can really think about doing the ending, including both the transition to the ending, the whole portion of the climax, and the resolution, all equally important in structuring the end of your story. So that's awesome. We definitely got some really good, really great ending strategies for today. And what we're going to do is we're going to move right along. But before we move along, I want to bring up, for those of you who don't know, the Easy Edit tool. I recently created a brand new tool. It's absolutely free, costs $0 for you to be able to easily edit your story. It's a PDF, and all you got to do is go to this link and subscribe. I'm launching it as part of my newsletter. There's that. So if you go to the link, you can subscribe and you can get the edit tool for free. It's absolutely great if you're working on editing like an early draft of your story. It also gives insights if you're still working on writing the original draft of your story. I try to focus it kind of on the editing, like if you're trying to fix things, but it would absolutely work as insight if you're still working on developing the story as well, right? So you see what I do is I have, those are the things that it touches upon. And then this is just an example, right? So I give a couple of solutions and then I give some specific examples about how I would use the solutions and put them into action to make it more dynamic. These are concepts that I've distilled from just the past 6 months of editing so many excerpts of rough drafts of stories in the live show, the Story and Critique show. So definitely make sure that you go to the link and you download it, or you subscribe, and then it will be automatically sent to you for the at the beginning of the newsletter. So make sure you check that out. It's a super cool tool. And so far, the feedback I've been getting on it is that it's been really helpful to writers. It's kind of just like an additional like knowledge thing as you're working on your story. Awesome. So with that being said, it's that time of the stream for my favorite time, our favorite time. We cannot call ourselves writers unless we do a writing sprint. So it's that time of the stream to get some writing done. Time to get in some writing. I'm going to throw up some music. And by the way, I'm going to do 25 minutes today. I'm going to do a 25-minute sprint. So I'm going to adjust that. 25 minutes. So if you're feeling super creative, feel free to join me on the writing sprint. Like I said, only 25 minutes. I'm going to throw up some music and we'll get some really great writing in. Last Scarecrow, I'm at a really great moment of it. I'm 75% of the way through it. So just transitioning into Act 3. If you don't feel like writing, feel free to kick back and you can read vicariously as I'll write for the both of us. All right, and let me throw up the music. Okie dokie, and I will get, let me see. Perfect. So we're going to get the music up. We got the atomic. Okay, and then let me change my screen and I'll add the writing screen back to. Perfect. And there we go. So I'm all set on my end. I got 25 minutes. Oof. I'm still getting chills from what I wrote from yesterday's. Like yesterday's story, oh my goodness, I made such great progress. Like I'm so proud. Like, you know, when you write a scene and the scene you write, like, you know, it's awesome. Like, woof, man, I was getting chills from yesterday's scene. Oh, maybe I'll get down there eventually. All right, there we go. All right, and let's see. Perfect. So there's where we left off yesterday. Oh, actually, I need to pull up the beginning of the chapter title because we are on chapter 40. All right, so we got it's a good title. Chapter 40. Let's see. So this is going to be a big moment. Kind of going back and forth. And then there was one. We're going to just make that very simple. And then there was one. That's what we're going to do. All right. So that'll be my placeholder chapter for now. Let's see. Chapter 40. Let's see. Scarecrow is confronted by a friend turned enemy. He's confronted by a frenemy. Okay, so that's what chapter 40 is in a heartbeat. Okay, so I got 20 minutes on the clock. I'm already on my end. And let's see. All right, and I'm already, I got 25 minutes on the clock. And it's time to write now. Right, okay, I'm gonna have to leave it there. Whew, oh my goodness, what a stream. Oh my goodness, what 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 a sprint there. Whew, man, I was like, all right, timer. I went way over today. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. That was an intense, that was an intense scene. Oh my God. Whew. I've been like, I have been working towards this scene for quite some time. This is the first like, oh shit moment. Like, oh my God, like shit. Whew. This has been definitely one of the bigger moments that I've been working towards. Whew, I like kind of I like have to take a breath. I was like, that was an intense scene to write. Wow, it was like the last time I've been working towards this since like the midpoint, like the since the crow death scene, like whew. And then like I went straight from the backstory where we got to see the cool elemental nature magic effect that led to the creation of magic itself, which was super cool. And we got to see the truth behind Quilt in how Quilt was really at the center is the source of this magic, which was channeled into the quilt. And then Scarecrow being brought back from this memory, only to find that Audie has now taken control. Audie now has the blade and is clearly has been working against him for some way, shape, or form. She mentions Skunk, but right now we have Audie who's standing against Scarecrow. Scarecrow can't move because she's ripped his arms out. Like clearly Scarecrow's just like an armless Scarecrow. His arms are on the ground. And all that can be seen is Audie has Pebble trapped in a jar. Audie tosses the jar in the air like she's going to cut the pixie in half. Before she can, we have Gore come back out of nowhere, try to charge her. He misses. And then Stretch does the same thing. And we see it in a moment of horror, a moment of pure horror, as she does a backflip and then flings the sword and basically skewers Stretch against the tree. Our snake. Is that the end of Stretch? Is that the end of our snaky friend? In horror, Stretch glanced down at Scarecrow with only a moment's look of sorrow before the blade went cleanly through his neck and skewered him against the tree. Oof, man, talk about a scene, talk about a moment. I'm like, whew, oh, wow, talk about a scene. I'm like, I'm still in shock. Awesome. So with that being said, let me hop back into the comments. Zerby, it looks like you asked a question about the government. You asked something very unrelated to writing. So Zerby, what I'll do, because this is predominantly a writing stream, what I'll do is I'll message you. I'll message you the answer because it looks like you're asking about some life advice, and I'm definitely happy to give you my thoughts. But I generally try to keep the things on stream for writing, for the writing brand. Awesome. So, hey, what's up, Steph? Welcome, welcome. Just had like a really great writing sprint. Really great writing sprint. Really great story structuring today. We got some really great things. I've been definitely, oh, that's right. I need to update the Twitch banner. I like completely forgot. I haven't updated Twitch. I realized, Stephanie, I've changed my times for the week. I'm trying out some earlier times because based on analytics, I'm seeing from the live stream, people might be more available earlier on in the day. So I'm trying different times for the week. I'll go post my schedule up on Twitch now. So it's live, but I'm basically trying like some early afternoon times throughout the week. So, but with that being said, if you're looking for creative writing on the morrow, so if you're looking for something to watch, make sure that you go check out in the YouTube playlist. I have the playlist of the previous story structure workshops, some world building, some character development, some of the most popular live streams. So go check that out. We've been doing some Hermes the Cat stuff for the past 2 weeks. If you feel like you've missed out or you want to check out more, and then make sure to join in tomorrow as we'll be doing World Building Wednesdays. And I'll think about what we want to do for World Building Wednesdays. I feel like we made some great progress with Hermes the Cat. Maybe I'll continue. Maybe we'll do something else. I'm not sure yet. So come join. I'll be live tomorrow, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I'll be here. So come join me. And by the way, make sure to like the stream on your way out. Let me know that you got value out of it. Tap that like button. Help me show the algorithm that this is the writing stream to be. So once again, I appreciate you. And that is all that I got for you, my friends. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm your host, Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.